The preservation pod hummed with ancient energy, its translucent surface clouded by centuries of dust. Inside, suspended between heartbeats, floated a man who should have died 2 centuries ago. Selena's fingers trembled as she interfaced with the pod's control panel. The deteriorating facility around her groaned with age. Forgotten corridors of humanity's last military stronghold now reclaimed by nature and time. This is insanity, she whispered to herself. Antenna-like sensory filaments. At her temples quivering with apprehension, half human, half Nathari, Selene existed in the margins of both society scientist, archaeologist, and now traitor. The pod systems responded sluggishly, ancient circuits awakening. A status indicator flickered. Preservation subject viable neural. Activity minimal, recommend immediate restoration. Selene initiated the revival sequence, watching as nutrient-rich fluid drained from the pod. The man inside twitched, muscles remembering movement after centuries of stillness. According to the military records she'd secretly accessed, this was Sergeant Javier Thorne, decorated tactical officer of Earth's final defense force, the last human soldier to fall in the Battle of New Geneva. The pod hissed open. Thorne's eyes snapped wide, disoriented and wild. With a primal growl, he lunged forward, fingers closing around Selene's throat. Nathari, he snarled, voice hoarse from disuse. Selene remained still, making no move to defend herself. Not entirely, she managed, meeting his gaze steadily. I'm Selene. I woke you. His grip loosened as confusion replaced rage. He took in her features, human eyes set in a face with subtle Netheri characteristics. Her skin, a pale, opalescent sheen, those sensory filaments where human temples would be. What are you? Thorne rasped, releasing her completely. The future. You never expected, Selene replied, offering a small flask of water. Drink slowly. Your body hasn't processed real sustenance in 2 centuries. Thorne's hands shook as he accepted the flask. 200 years, he repeated, the enormity of it washing over him. He looked around the abandoned facility. We lost. Didn't we? Selene nodded. Earth surrendered 3 months after your last battle. Thorne's expression hardened. And why wake me? I'm nothing but a relic, because some relics contain exactly what we need. Selene retrieved a small device from her pack and pressed it against the back of Thorne's neck. He flinched, but felt instant relief as nanomedicines flowed into his system, accelerating his recovery. There are those who remember what freedom meant, Selene said, helping him stand on unsteady legs, both human and Nathari, who believe in a different future than this caste system we live under. Thorne's laugh was bitter. And what am I supposed to do? One soldier against an empire? Not just any soldier, Selene countered. The soldier who knows all the contingency protocols, all the hidden supply caches, all the emergency fallback positions. A memory flashed Thorne at a command console, uploading final contingency plans as Nathari forces breached the perimeter. His commanding officer's final words, "Ensure this knowledge survives, Sergeant, even if we don't." How much time do we have? Thorne asked, already assessing their tactical position. Not much. I diverted the security systems, but they'll reset. And Selene checked her wrist display. 37 minutes. Thorne noticed the display was embedded in her skin. Technology and biology merged seamlessly. This new world would take getting used to. Can you walk? She asked. He tested his legs, feeling strength returning as the nanomedicines worked. I can manage. Lead the way. As they moved through the shadowed corridors, alarms suddenly blared. To life, Selene cursed. Security reset early. We need to move now. Thorne's military training kicked in. Despite 2 centuries in stasis, his body remembered what to do. They ran through deteriorating hallways, Thorne following Selene's lead, until they reached a maintenance shaft. Down here, she urged, sliding into the narrow passage as they emerged outside. Thorne saw Earth, or what remained of it, for the first time in 2 centuries. Crystal spires rose impossibly high, glowing with internal light. Between them, translucent. Passages connected the structures filled with moving shapes that were distinctly non-human. The Netheri elite live above, Selene explained, pulling him into shadow as a patrol drone passed overhead. Humans exist below, in the underwarrens. Thorn felt something stir within him, not quite hope but purpose. Who else knows you woke? Me. No one, Celine admitted. Not even the Resistance. It was too dangerous. Why risk everything for me? Thorn asked, studying her face. What makes you think I'm worth it? Celine met his gaze, determination evident in her eyes. Because my father is General Kyrvax, architect of humanity's defeat. I've spent my life watching his empire crush human dignity, and I've spent years studying you, Sergeant Thorn the human who never surrendered. The revelation hit Thorn like physical blow. You're the enemy's daughter. I'm no one's daughter anymore, Celine replied, her voice hardening. Now I'm just someone who wants to change the world. Are you with me? Hey! Before Thorn could answer, searchlights swept over the ruins. The hunt had begun. Thorn and Celine descended into the underwarrens, a labyrinth of repurposed sewers and forgotten infrastructure beneath the gleaming Netherry towers. The contrast was stark above, crystal elegance. Below, human desperation. Watch your step, Celine warned as they navigated narrow pathways crowded with makeshift dwellings. Hollow-eyed humans glanced up as they passed, then quickly looked away. They're afraid, Thorn observed, his voice low. Informants are everywhere. The Netherry. Reward humans who report suspicious activity with extra rations, better housing. Celine guided him through a marketplace where vendors sold scavenged goods under the watchful eyes of surveillance drones. This is what remains of human civilization. Propaganda holograms flickered at intervals, displaying messages in both languages, unity through hierarchy, and prosperity under guidance. The sight made Thorn's jaw clench. Stop, a voice commanded from the shadows. A weathered man emerged, aiming a crude energy weapon at them. 3 others appeared, surrounding them. Bringing a Netherry spy into our territory, Celine? I thought better of you. He's not Netherry, Desmond, Celine replied calmly. Closer, the Mandasman studied Thorn with suspicion. Human, then why the military escort? Only collaborators get that privilege. I'm not escorting her, Thorn said. She rescued me. Desmond scoffed. Rescued from what? Comfort? Privilege? From time? Celine interjected. Show him, Thorn. Thorn slowly reached inside his jacket and withdrew a military identification chip, ancient technology by current standards. Desmond's eyes widened as he scanned it with a device. This can't be real, he whispered. Sergeant Javier Thorn, Earth Defense Force, 2nd Tactical Division. This says you were born in 2197. That's 200 years ago, Thorn confirmed.
That was...
Preserved in stasis during the final battle. The weapons lowered slightly. Desmond's skepticism gave way to wonder, then suspicion again. Why now? Why wake him after all this time? I discovered his pod while cataloging artifacts in a forgotten military bunker, Celine explained. The historical records claimed all high-ranking human officers were executed after the surrender. And I'm supposed to believe a half-breed daughter of General Kyrvax is helping humans out of kindness? Desmond spat. Thorn stepped between them. She risked everything to wake me. That's enough for now. A tense silence followed. Finally, Desmond gestured toward a hidden doorway. The others will want to see this. The Resistance headquarters was concealed beneath an abandoned processing plant, accessible only through a series of hidden passages. Inside, about 30 people humans and a few hybrids huddled around heat sources, maintaining weapons or studying outdated maps. Their arrival caused an immediate stir. An elderly woman approached, her eyes sharp despite her frail appearance. I'm Vivian, she said, studying Thorn carefully. I was a child when the Netherry came. My mother told me stories about Earth's defenders. She touched his face gently. I never thought I'd meet one. Something in her reverence made Thorn uncomfortable. I'm no hero. I failed. We all failed, Desmond interjected. The question is, what good are you now, Sergeant? Before Thorn could answer, alarms blared throughout the underwarrens. The Resistance members moved with practiced efficiency, concealing evidence of their presence. Patrol sweep, Vivian explained. leading them to a hidden observation point. Through a grate, they watched as Nathari soldiers herded humans into lines for inspection. Their carapaces gleamed in the dim light, mandibles clicking as they communicated among themselves. "Identity verification," Celine whispered, "looking for unregistered humans." Thorn watched a soldier strike an elderly man who moved too slowly. "Nothing's changed," he muttered. "Different aliens, same oppression. It's worse than you know," Vivian said. "The Nathari aren't just conquerors. They're terraforming Earth to suit their biology. In another century, the atmosphere will be unbreathable for pure humans." Thorn turned to Celine. "Is this true?" She nodded, unable to meet his eyes. "It's called the Great Adaptation. My father's master plan for permanent Nathari colonization." Desmond sneered. "And that's who you're trusting, Thorn, the architect's daughter, who's risking execution." "To help us," Thorn countered. He turned to the assembled resistance members. "I don't know this world yet, but I know warfare. I know Nathari weaknesses from fighting them. I know Earth's contingency plans that were never implemented." A young man stepped forward. "What kind of contingencies? Weapon caches? Fallback positions? And protocols to contact off-world colonies that might have survived." Murmurs spread through the group. Desmond shook his head. "Fairy tales. There are no colonies. The Nathari control everything from here to Mars." "Not everything," Thorn insisted. "Before the final assault, we sent ships. Far ships, beyond the reach of Nathari influence." Hope flickered across faces that had known none. Even Desmond seemed affected. Celine suddenly stiffened, her sensory filaments vibrating. "Nathari approaching," she warned. "Not regular soldiers, harvesters." Fear rippled through the room, Vivian whispered. "They sense elevated emotions. Our hope betrayed us." Thorn turned to Celine, a question in his eyes. "Specialized hunters," she explained quickly. "They can detect neurochemical changes, fear, excitement, even hope. We need to evacuate." As the resistance scattered through escape tunnels, Thorn found himself pulled along by Celine. Behind them, the chittering sounds of harvesters grew louder. "Where are we going?" he asked as they emerged in a different sector of the Underwarrens. Celine's expression was grim. "Somewhere even the Nathari fear to go."
The dead zone where the final
Battle was fought. As they moved through increasingly dilapidated tunnels, Thorn felt a strange sensation recognition. The layout became familiar. "I know this place," he realized. "This was Command Sector 7, Celine finished, where you made your last stand." They emerged into moonlight, facing a blasted landscape of twisted metal and glass, still bearing scars of weapons beyond human technology. In the distance, the ruined dome of what had once been humanity's final military headquarters rose like a grave marker. "Welcome home, Sergeant Thorn," Celine said softly. Thorn stood silently, memories of his final battle washing over him. Then, with renewed purpose, he turned to her.
Almi.
"Everything about these harvesters. Knowledge is the first step to victory." As they took shelter in the ruins, Celine began to explain the enemy. For the first time in 2 centuries, human military mind began to formulate strategy against the Netheranaut, for victory, but for survival. Dawn broke over the dead zone, casting long shadows across the ruins. For 2 weeks, Thorn had transformed the abandoned command center into a training ground for the resistance. Today, 20 fighters practiced combat maneuvers under his watchful eye. "Move like water, not stone," he instructed, demonstrating a fluid takedown technique. Nathari exoskeletons are strongest at joints. Target the connecting tissue between plates. Desmond, who had reluctantly accepted Thorn's expertise, grappled with a younger fighter. "Like this." "Better," Thorn approved. "Remember, you'll never match their strength. Use their weight against them." From a distance, Celine observed, data tablet in hand. Her dual heritage made some resistance members uncomfortable, so she maintained her distance during training. Only during strategy sessions did she fully participate, providing invaluable intelligence on Nathari capabilities. As the session ended, Thorn approached her. "Any news from your contacts?" Celine nodded. "The weapon shipment will pass through Sector 12 tonight. Minimal guard 2 sentinels, 1 transport pilot. Their eyes met, communication passing between them that went beyond words. Over the past weeks, their initial wariness had evolved into something neither had anticipated: respect, understanding, and something more dangerous. Your father's forces are searching the northern sectors, she continued, breaking the moment. We still have time. How do you know they won't trace your communications? Thorn asked. Celine smiled faintly. Because I designed their encryption systems. I know the back doors. Later, as Resistance members prepared for the raid, Thorn found Celine alone in what had once been an officer's quarters. She stood before a cracked mirror, removing the specialized contacts that disguised her eyes' non-human reflectivity. You don't have to hide here, Thorn said quietly. She turned, startled. Habits. I've spent my life concealing parts of myself, too Nathari for humans, too human for Nathari. Thorn approached, studying her face with genuine curiosity. What was it like growing up between worlds? Lonely, she admitted. My father saw me as an experiment in genetic compatibility, a prototype for future generations who would inherit a transformed Earth. Her sensory filaments trembled slightly, betraying emotion her face concealed. When I showed too much human empathy, I was recalibrated, neurological conditioning. To suppress those traits, yet here you are risking everything for humans, for a different future, she corrected. One where neither species dominates the other. Their conversation was interrupted by Desmond. It's time. The raid on the weapons transport began perfectly. Using Celine's intelligence, they ambushed the lightly guarded shipment in a narrow passage where the transport couldn't maneuver. Thorn's tactical planning proved flawless till a civilian transport unexpectedly entered the engagement zone. Abort. Thorn commanded as innocent bystanders became potential casualties. Desmond hesitated, weapon trained on the Nathari Sentinel. We need these weapons. Not at this price, Thorn countered. Fall back. Those fighters obeyed, but 3 continued the assault. The Sentinel, protecting the civilians, fired defense countermeasures. 1 Resistance fighter fell, then another. Thorn rushed forward, dragging the wounded to safety, while Celine created a diversion. The transport escaped, but they saved their people, a strategic loss, but a moral victory. Back at the base, tension erupted. Could have taken those weapons, Desmond shouted. Instead, we have nothing but wounded fighters. We have our humanity, Thorn replied evenly. The moment we sacrifice innocent lives for tactical advantage, we become what we're fighting against. The argument might have escalated further if not for the base's perimeter alarm. Celine burst in, her expression urgent. Harvester squad. Approaching, they tracked our wounded. Evacuation began immediately, but the injured slowed their progress. Thorn made a decision. Desmond, get everyone to the secondary location. Celine and I will lay a false trail. Splitting up is suicide, Desmond argued. So is staying together. Go. As the Resistance escaped through hidden tunnels, Thorn and Celine headed in the opposite direction, deliberately leaving traces for the harvesters to follow. They ran through the ruins, eventually taking shelter in a partially collapsed structure that had once been a civilian hospital. As night fell, they huddled in darkness, listening to the chittering sounds of harvesters searching nearby. They'll find us eventually, Celine whispered. Their sensory capabilities exceed even mine. Then we give the others more time, Thorn replied simply. In the quiet darkness, surrounded by danger, something shifted between them. Selena's hand found her touch tentative, questioning. I never understood humans' willingness to sacrifice for others, she confessed, her voice barely audible. The Nathari value the collective, but individual sacrifice is considered inefficient. It's not logical, Thorn agreed. It's human, yet I feel it too, she said, her sensory filaments gently brushing his face, an intimate gesture among her kind. What does that make me? Exactly who you are, Thorn answered, drawing her closer. Their kiss was hesitant at first, a bridge between worlds never meant to connect. Then urgent, desperate to souls finding unexpected connection amid chaos. When they finally separated, Celine's expression was troubled. The harvester's will, sense this strong emotions are like beacons to them. Let them come, Thorn said, his tactical mind already formulating a plan. We'll use it against them, using components scavenged from the hospital's ancient equipment. They constructed crude neurochemical emitters devices that mimicked the emotional signatures harvesters detected. These might buy us enough time to escape, Thorn explained. Activating the first device, they'll mask our trail. Before they could implement their plan, Celine suddenly stiffened. They're already here, she whispered. A harvester materialized from the shadows, its elongated form more insectoid than the standard Netheri soldiers. It chittered, sensory appendages quivering as it detected them, and unexpectedly, it spoke not in the standard Netheri language, but in perfect, unaccented human English. Daughter of Kirvax, it said, its voice eerily melodic. Your father sends his regards. Celine stepped forward protectively. Tell my father I've made my choice. So he feared, the harvester replied. That is why I bring not capture, but warning. The purge has been authorized. The Underwarns will be cleansed within 3 days. Cleansed, Thorn demanded. All human settlements deemed non-essential will be eliminated, the harvester explained with clinical detachment. The adaptation timeline has been accelerated. Why tell us this? Celine asked suspiciously. The harvester's form seemed to ripple. Not all Nethari embrace Kirvax's vision. Some of us remember the old ways before conquest became our purpose. It retreated into shadow. 3 days. Use them wisely. After it vanished, Thorn turned to Celine, his expression grim. Can we trust that information? That was no ordinary harvester, she replied, visibly shaken. While my father's former advisor, now leading the philosophical opposition. If he risked contacting me, the threat is real. Dawn found them moving swiftly back toward the Resistance's secondary base, their mission now urgent. The brief intimacy they'd shared was overshadowed by the looming catastrophe. A purge of the Underwarns would kill millions, Thorn calculated. As they traveled, leave only those humans deemed useful technicians, specialized workers. Genetic stock, Celine added grimly. They arrived at the Resistance base to find Desmond organizing reconnaissance teams. The Netheri are planning something big, he reported. Unusual movement in all sectors. Not planning implementing, Thorn corrected, sharing what they'd learned. As the Resistance leaders absorbed the devastating news, Thorn's expression hardened with resolve. It's time to implement Protocol Lazarus, he announced. Our only hope isn't here on Earth, it's among the stars. Protocol Lazarus was Earth's final contingency, Thorn explained to the assembled Resistance leaders. When defeat seemed inevitable, we launched colony ships beyond the Sol system, beyond Nethari detection range. Skepticism filled the room. Vivian voiced what many thought, if such colonies existed, wouldn't they have returned by now? Not without a signal, Thorn countered. The protocol required radio silence until activated from Earth. We couldn't risk leading the Netheri to the last free humans. Desmond leaned forward. And you can activate this signal. Not from here, Thorn replied. We need to reach the Omega Bunker, a hardened facility built beneath the old Rocky Mountains. Murmurs of disbelief spread through the room. That's on the other side of the continent, someone protested, through Nethari-controlled territory. There's another way, Celine interjected. The transport tunnels? My father commissioned them for moving materials without human knowledge. They span the continent. Desmond's suspicion returned. Convenient that you know so much about secret Netheri infrastructure. I helped design it, Celine replied evenly. My hybrid physiology made me valuable for creating systems comfortable for both species. Thorn intervened before the argument. Could escalate. We have 3 days before the purge begins. Our priority is evacuating as many humans as possible from the Underwarns. And how do you propose we do that? Desmond challenged. By giving them somewhere to go, Thorn answered. Celine and I will reach the Omega Bunker and activate Protocol Lazarus. The returning fleet can extract survivors, but only if people are ready to move. The Resistance divided into teams, evacuation coordinators, supply gatherers, and a small strike team that would accompany Thorn and Celine to the access point for the transport tunnels. As preparations continued, Thorn found a moment alone with Celine. You're risking everything, he observed. After this, there's no going back. She met his gaze steadily. There was no going back the moment I woke you. Their journey began. That night, the strike team moved through abandoned industrial zones, avoiding Netheri patrols that had increased dramatically. Reaching the access point required passing through a processing facility that converted Earth materials into building components for Netheri structures. 2 guards at the entrance, reported Jana, a former security technician who'd joined the resistance after her family was relocated to a labor camp. Standard rotation pattern, Thorn nodded. We'll wait for the shift change. There's a 3-minute window between rotations. When the moment came, they moved with practiced precision. Celine used her access codes to disable the security system while Thorn and Desmond neutralized the guards, non-lethally. At Thorn's insistence, they're just soldiers following orders, he reminded the team. Like we once were. Inside, they navigated through massive machinery that crushed and reformed Earth's natural resources. The contrast was stark outside. The Nethari created beauty. They destroyed it. They reached the hidden access panel where Selena's handprint activated a concealed door. Beyond lay a pristine tunnel with a sleek transport vehicle. This will take us 3/4 of the way, she explained, initiating the startup sequence. The final stretch must be on foot. The mountains interfere with the guidance systems. As the transport hummed to life, Desmond pulled Thorn aside. What happens if this protocol Lazarus works? What kind of force are we talking about? Enough to challenge the Nethari dominance, Thorn replied. But more importantly, enough to force negotiation? Negotiation? Desmond scoffed. After everything they've done? Thorn studied the resistance leader. What's your endgame, Desmond? Eradication of the Netheri. Been here for 2 centuries. This is their home too. Now, before Desmond could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Security override had failed. We're compromised, Jana warned. Multiple units converging, Thorn made a split-second decision. Desmond, take the team back rendezvous with the evacuation groups. Celine and I will continue to the Omega bunker. That's suicide, Desmond protested. The transport only needs 2 operators, Thorn countered, and the resistance needs leaders for what's coming. After a tense moment, Desmond nodded. Don't make me regret this, Sergeant. As the resistance team retreated, Thorn and Celine launched the transport into the tunnel network. The vehicle accelerated smoothly, guided by automated systems through a vast underground highway. How did they detect us? Thorn asked once they were safely away. Selena's expression was troubled. My access codes shouldn't have triggered alarms. Unless... Her voice trailed off. Unless what? Unless my father specifically tagged them? She finished quietly. He knows I've helped you. The realization hung between them. Her betrayal was now confirmed at the highest levels. There would be no mercy if they were captured. Hours passed as the transport carried them across the continent. In the confined space, with danger behind and uncertainty ahead, the connection between them deepened. Celine described her childhood as a living experiment, raised to be a bridge between species but never belonging to either. Thorn shared memories of Earth before the invasion, its beauty, its flaws, its promise. I had a brother, he revealed. A rare moment of personal disclosure. He was stationed on Luna Base when the Nethari attacked. I never learned what happened to him. The lunar colonies were incorporated into the Dominion, Celine said softly. Some humans there were preserved for their technical knowledge. Hope flickered briefly. Could he have survived? After 2 centuries? No, she answered honestly. But his descendants might have. The transport slowed as they approached the Rocky Mountain section. The tunnel ended at a maintenance station nestled within the mountain range. From here we walk, Celine announced, checking the environmental seals on her suit. Outside, the atmosphere had already been partially adapted. For Nethari physiology, thinner, oxygen, higher nitrogen content. The mountain paths were treacherous, made more so by the environmental changes that had altered Earth's weather patterns. Snow fell in regions that had once been temperate, while former snow caps had melted entirely. They hiked through the altered landscape, following coordinates programmed into Thorn's ancient Military implant technology so outdated the Nathari couldn't detect or decode it. Their thorn pointed toward a sheer cliff face. The entrance should be behind that rock formation. As they approached, Thorn hesitated. This was designed to recognize Earth military signatures. It may not acknowledge you. Celine nodded in understanding. I'll wait here. Thorn pressed his palm against a seemingly ordinary rock surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a grinding sound, a hidden door slid open, revealing a dark passageway. It recognized you, Celine observed with relief. The systems were designed to last, Thorn replied. Come on. Inside, emergency lighting flickered to life as they progressed deeper into the facility. Unlike the abandoned command center, the Omega bunker had been perfectly preserved, sealed against time and decay. Auxiliary power at 30%, announced an automated voice as they entered the main control room, identifying. Javier Thorn, Earth Defense Force, authorization confirmed. Welcome back, Sergeant. The bunker's systems awakened around them, displays illuminating data streams initializing. A holographic projection of Earth appeared, showing the colony. Ships' trajectories from 2 centuries ago. 7 ships, Thorn explained, studying the projection. Each carrying 10,000 people, scientists, soldiers, civilians. Enough genetic diversity to rebuild. Where did they go? Celine asked, mesmerized by the display. Proxima Centauri. First, then beyond 2 systems the Nathari had never explored. Thorn accessed the communications array. They followed protocol. They established outposts, then colonies, then a fleet. As Thorn worked to activate the ancient systems, Celine monitored the perimeter sensors. Movement outside, she warned. Multiple signatures approaching. Thorn worked faster. Protocol Lazarus requires authentication, voice print, DNA, and command codes. The facility shuddered as something impacted the exterior. Celine checked. The sensors again, Nathari strike force. How did they find us so quickly? A terrible realization dawned on Thorn. He turned to Celine, his expression hardening. There's only one explanation. They tracked us here. Her sensory filaments flattened. Against her temples, a sign of distress among her kind. No, I would have detected a tracking device. Not if it was biological, Thorn said quietly. Not if it was part of you. Understanding washed over her face. Duh. My neural implant, the one all hybrids receive at birth, I thought I'd disabled. But your father would have safeguards you didn't know about, Thorn finished. Tears filled Selena's eyes, a very human response. I led them right to you, to everything. Another impact rocked the facility. Warning lights flashed as the outer defenses began to fail. We don't have much time, Thorn said, turning back to the console. I need to complete the activation sequence. As he worked, Celine made a decision. Without a word, she removed a small device from her pack and placed it against her temple. She winced as it activated, sending pulses into her neural implant. What are you doing? Thorn demanded. Creating interference, she explained through gritted teeth. Long, but it might buy us enough time. General Kirvox moved with unsettling grace for his size, mandibles clicking softly as he approached. The Nathari soldiers remained at the entrance, weapons trained on Thorn and Celine. Did you truly believe we wouldn't monitor the old human? Facilities, Kirvox asked, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the blinking console lights. We've known about Protocol Lazarus for generations. Then why let us activate it? Thorn demanded. Because I wanted it activated, Kirvox replied simply. just as I allowed Celine to find your preservation pod. The revelation hit like a physical blow. Celine stepped forward, her sensory filaments rigid with anger. You used me? All of this was your plan. Not used, daughter. Guided Kyrvox's mandibles arranged in what passed for a Nathari smile. Your sympathy for humans made you predictable. Your technical skills made you capable. I merely provided opportunities. Thorn's tactical mind raced, reassessing everything. You want the colonies to return. Why? The great adaptation is failing, Kyrvox stated matter-of-factly. Earth's biosphere is rejecting our modifications. Within a century, this planet will become uninhabitable for both species. The terraforming was too aggressive, Celine realized. The ecosystem is collapsing. Precisely. Kyrvox gestured to the holographic display. We need the colony's knowledge, their understanding of human-compatible worlds. They've had 2 centuries to perfect sustainable colonial technologies, while we've squandered resources trying to remake Earth in our image. Thorn studied the general, looking for deception. So the purge. A calculated atrocity to ensure the colonies would respond militarily, Kyrvox confirmed. Diplomacy requires leverage. The colonies would never negotiate with us unless they believed they had superior force. You would sacrifice millions of humans to force negotiations. Selena's voice shook with horror. I would sacrifice millions to save billions, her father corrected. The Dominion encompasses 17 worlds, without new habitable planets. The coming ecological collapse will cause unprecedented suffering for both species. The facility's communications array suddenly activated, interrupting their confrontation. A signal was being received impossible, given the distances involved. They were waiting, Thorn realized. They've been monitoring Earth all along. The display flickered, resolving into the image of a woman in a military uniform unlike any. Thorn had seen evolved from Earth Defense Force designs, but distinctly different. This is Admiral Helena Thorn of the United Colonies responding to Protocol Lazarus. Identify yourself. The name struck Thorn like lightning. Helena Thorn, he whispered. Sergeant Javier Thorn responding, he said, stepping toward the display. Helena, ... Are you related to Marcus Thorn? The Admiral's composed expression faltered momentarily. Marcus Thorn was my great-great-grandfather, who was stationed on Luna Base during the fall of Earth. Who are you to ask? I'm his brother, Thorn answered simply. For a moment, silence filled both sides of the transmission. Then Admiral Helena Thorn regained her composure. We'll require verification, of course. Our fleet is already en route to Sol, expected arrival. 3 days. Kyrvox stepped into the transmission field. Admiral, I am General Kyrvox of the Nathari Dominion. We anticipated your return. Did you know? The Admiral's tone cooled. We've been monitoring Earth's transformation. Your Dominion has much to answer for. As do we all, Kyrvox replied. I propose a summit human, Nathari, and colonial representatives. The future of both our species depends on cooperation. Bold words from a conqueror. Admiral Thorn responded. We'll establish a secure communication protocol for preliminary discussions. Sergeant, she addressed Thorn again. If you are indeed my ancestor's brother, I look forward to meeting you. Stand by for secure transmission coordinates. The communication ended.